This is KUGAN CASSIUS for iFall TV in association with MTK Global. Delighted to be here in Jeddah. It's fight day.
It is indeed.
And there's none other than Kalle Sauerland I'm with. That makes any sense.
Great to see you in Saudi Arabia, KUGAN.
Yeah, been very hospitable here.
Yeah, I mean,
the Saudis.
Very friendly people. Very friendly people. The locals I've met.
Yeah.
We expect a lot of interest around the fight. I mean, just looking at the sort of the national newspaper.
Oh yeah, get that out.
That's the National today. It's pretty much the whole paper.
Wow.
So that's that sort of sums up the hype that's been going down in Saudi this week, and we're calling it the rowdy from Saudi.
Yeah.
And I said before, this is about taking the sport to new parts of the world, I just have to draw parallels to the sort of the Rumble in the Jungle and Frida and Manila. Not in terms of the fight. Well, no one's ever going to compare to Ali for me, and those were his most epic fights. But what I will say is that we're bringing this for the first time to a new region of the world, which certainly seems to have an appetite for sports. So I think it's an exciting move. I hope it lives up to the fight, because I think styles of those fighters really will match each other. I think we're going to see a cracking fight, and I think that overall it's. It's been a sensational first year for the World Boxing Super Series, and this sort of draws a line under the first tournament, and it's straight from here to Tokyo, where we obviously kick off the next season with the monster.
Inoue.
Who, when you meet him, looks everything but a monster. But I think you just see the performance he put on against Jamie McDonnell, and he's a great champ and fighter himself, and cracking fight. Payano as well. I mean, if Payano's the number 8, let's work it out like that. If it's number 1 seed is fighting the number 8 seed, and that's Payano. Payano Inoue as a standalone is a great fight. So very excited about the second season. I'll talk about that in a minute, but I'm sure you want to talk a bit more about George and Kalle.
Yeah, I just kind of want to get this out of the way, really. I knew kind of as the fight.
Sounds like you're about to make me a proposal or something.
Oh, it can be.
Not
that way inclined.
Country to be doing that.
Yeah. I knew as the fight kind of got closer, the people back home would surface up again about why the fight was in Jeddah, why 2 Brits are fighting in Jeddah, why is it not in England?
Yeah.
We know it's not difficult, it is difficult rather for fans to sort of come over here.
Yeah.
But can you just sort of touch on that again? I know we've spoken about that, but I think there are some people out there that still don't kind of understand why the fight has wound up in Jeddah that involves 2 Brits headlining.
Yeah, I mean, it's simply, this is not day-to-day boxing. This is the Champions League of boxing. So this decision wasn't taken that we would move a final to Jeddah last month. This was decided actually during the quarterfinals. So, like the Champions League of football, this year you had in Kiev, you obviously had Liverpool and Madrid, and I'll keep on using that example because this is a different format in boxing, of course. This is the Champions League, this is the World Boxing Super Series, and it travels, and part of the MO is to take it to new territories and develop the sport where we can also go back to, and look, this could have been a completely different final, I mean, if I look at the semi-finals alone, you had it's one of my Saudi friends. You could have easily had a Bremer versus Eubank final that would have also been here. That was according to the bookies. I think Bremer was favourite and Eubank was certainly favourite. Make what you want on those odds. I'm not here to judge the bookmakers. I hope your viewers made a few quid on those fights. But I think that you have to look at it a little bit differently. And let's be honest, if this was 5 years ago, 6 years ago in the UK, I remember remember putting on Kessler Froch 2 at the O2, and I remember that being the first pay-per-view back in the UK. And at the time, it was like, I remember that sold out. We were shocked, you know. Went up to the press conference and we found out that it had sold out so quickly, and that at the time was something very different in British boxing. You know, British boxing had been on a down way for a while, and you know I think Sky have done a great job. I think Eddie's done a great job. I think Frank's done a great job now to come back with BT as well. You see that there's a lot of great shows there now. So it's not like we're taking away the one diamond out of the UK this year. You know, yes, this would have sold out many stadia or arenas. This would have been a massive fight in the UK, but it's come out here. It's still obviously a huge fight for the UK, massive. I mean, the first let's say Champions League winner, or the winner of the Ali Trophy. So you have to look at it a little bit more from a different perspective than, let's say, it was, I don't know, Kalle Sauerland putting on a boxing show, or Eddie Hearn, or Frank Warren, or Bob Arum, you know, or my brother. You know, it's not about an individual promoter. This is about a series, you know, and you see the flow now of the way it goes into the new series, and let's see where the road takes us in the second series, because I think we're not gonna stop travelling. You know, I think we go obviously to Tokyo next week. Then it's Orlando, New Orleans, Glasgow. Sorry, I missed Ekaterinburg in Russia as well in between that. You know, then we go back, I think, to Chicago as the last one. So we've got 7 weeks back to back bouncing across now. So that's and I mean you've been around, you're almost part of the team here, Coop. So you know you've seen the people we travel with. It's not like a normal, you know, Matchroom Sound and whatever show. It's a massive setup with the people, because it's always the same set that travels. You know, we've got 2 sets, so I don't know how they logistically, geographically do it, but the set here will probably go off to New Orleans now. We've got another set that's in Orlando, of course.
Who makes the decisions of where specific fights go? Who's that down to?
There's a board,
yeah.
My responsibility is the boxing part of it, which is also new for me, where I'd normally be overseeing the media rights deals. You know, people ask me, oh, where's this been shown? I have to go and check that sometimes. I'm responsible for selecting the weights and selecting the fighters together with the board. So it goes through a decision-making panel of 8 people. Those comprise of people from the broadcasting world, the entertainment world, and the boxing world. So you know, it's 3 shareholders, and it goes through that sort of mill. So it's not, you know, I have a very, very strong governance in terms of what I'm able to do and not able to do. You know, I think that's good. It puts me in a position also where I can always say, hey, that was a team decision, you know. And sometimes, you know, sometimes we disagree and sometimes we agree. But I think we've so far got the magic just right. You know, when you look at the first season, you know, super middleweight was important for us from a UK perspective. I think we got just the right blend of names in there. You know, everyone who was fit and able to be in there should have been in there. And I look at the cruiserweights, and I think, you know, the proof in the pudding is now that Usyk is fighting Bellew in a big pay-per-view in the UK. So you see the profile that the tournament brings a fighter. So for future fighters need to look at it also as, you know, it's good money in the tournament, no doubt, but it's also about where you can go if you have the quality, where you can go from the tournament. And you look at the fighters; they'll all have benefited in terms of even CASSIUS, who lost the final, or Breedis. You know, these are now names where people say, "Well, I'd like to see him." You know.
I was going to come on to that. With obviously, we knew after Usyk beat Kassiev that Usyk had a plan to move up to heavyweight at some point. He's fighting Tony Bellew for all the belts on November the 10th. Yeah. Are you kind of looking either way with the result of that, with the possibility of Usyk moving up to heavyweight, the possibility of Bellew not fighting again after that, that the belt's being released.
Yeah, that's more or less the arrangements we have.
Yeah.
The governing bodies have okayed the names that we have in there as the top 2 challengers. So basically, we've taken the best 2 times 4, the 4 belts. So that's how we get our 8. That's why there wasn't a draw as such for the cruiserweights. So yeah, for me it's clear. Look, I mean, Tony said many times it's his last fight and this, that, and the other. But there's Usyk, who's actually said to me, at a press conference straight after the fight, he's moving up to heavyweight. I think everyone knows he's moving up to heavyweight. And I believe the fight was originally discussed as a heavyweight fight, and then I think Bellew wanted the belts in. That's what I've heard. Which I think is great for Tony. It makes him also come down to his old weight, which I think is still Bellew's best weight.
What do you think about that fight in general?
I think I think it's a cracking fight, and I've said this before. Tony's my pal, and I like Dave Colwell very much, and I've obviously worked and promoted Usyk for the last year. Cracking guy, inside and outside the ring. I mean, he really is. He's got that something.
Yeah.
What does French say? Je ne sais quoi.
What people say you have.
Yeah, exactly. It's a little bit the same. It's similar. I wish I could fight like him. Yeah. But he really is like. There's something about him that is star quality, and Tony has that, but like the working class star quality. It's like he's a man, like it's become. Remember, Tony was a while when Tony. I remember we were getting a cab in Liverpool, and the cabbie was telling me, I can't stand that Bellew. It was just before the Cleverly fight, but he switched the opinions of people amazingly, and I think it's a fun one. I think Tony's up against it. I'll be honest. Just having seen Usyk live 3 times. I mean, the blueprint is just watch the Breedis fight. Breedis, for me, actually was a draw the fight. I've said that before. In fact, Breedis could have nicked it, or Usyk could have nicked it, but it went down to the last round. So I think if you want to look at blueprint of how to beat him, you look at the Breedis fight. And Tony can adjust, and David Colwell's ex coach, he can adjust that plan. And they'll have to move away from. They'll have to move him off. It was a very clever footwork that Breedis did in that fight, and it took him 6-7 rounds, Usyk, to get to terms with it, and then he sort of had the later rounds, and Breedis had the earlier rounds. Great fight. If you haven't seen it, go and watch it. Great fight. Really, technically, as a fight I've seen live, was the best ever boxing fight on a technical point. It was exciting as well, but the technical quality in that fight was amazing. And I think it's I'm sure the bookie's going to be against Bellew. It's worth having a bet, Usyk does get caught, things that for me, he seems to take the punches quite well when he does get caught. I mean, Kassiev can whack, let's be honest. Not saying Tony can't whack, but it's one of those ones, he needs to find that moment, Tony, in the fight. I can't see him outboxing in 12 rounds. But Tony's there for a moment. He's got that sort of that hero script about him, doesn't he? So I'm a romantic like that. But no, I wish them both the best. I like both guys very much. I'm looking very forward to see it.
Obviously, your sort of first 2 weight categories comes to an end tonight.
Yeah.
So some sort of closure there on that one.
Yeah. Well, we're not quite there yet.
Not quite there. A few hours there. We will be there.
6 p.m. UK time and 9 o'clock tonight, Friday night.
UK time. Yeah.
UK time. UK time is the ring walk. So when people ask what time roughly is the ring, so roughly, it's bang on with us.
Ring walks start at 9 o'clock.
At 9 o'clock, you can set your watch to it.
How much of the undercard will...
Check your iPhones, your Samsungs, and you'll see when it comes to 9 o'clock, that will be walking.
How much of the undercard will the people buying the fight on ITV box office get to see?
I think they start showing from 6 o'clock. I think 6:30 they start showing the undercard. So obviously you've got Eubank Jr. on there. They've got a few decent fights and then once again a little bit of an international feel to them. I'm looking forward to see to see Eubank. I saw him downstairs. I just came up in the lift with him. Actually, he looks in tremendous shape. He's always good. I haven't watched your piece with him last night.
Yeah, it was good because he's not really done a lot of press since the Groves fight, so it was good to
I mean,
get half hour with him.
He is what anyone else says about him or senior. One thing's for sure, he's a natural talent. There is a natural talent there. It's about capturing that talent there with the right strategy in the fights.
His words to me last night were, if George Groves was to fall down the stairs and break his arm, I would be in this fight tomorrow.
Yeah, he looks. I mean, certainly looks ready for 12 rounds. He looks in tremendous shape. Looked great at the weigh-in as well. So, yeah.
It's interesting because Naz is here as well.
Yep, Naz flew in.
Holyfield's
here.
Yeah, Holyfield's here.
Rashid Ali is here, the daughter of Muhammad Ali.
Interviewed a lot of them.
Yeah.
Naz is here.
Great, isn't he? Yeah,
Naz wants to speak to Eubank because he said to me yesterday.
To me.
Naz wants to speak to Eubank. I think obviously that clip after the fight with him telling him he should retire got a lot of kind of attention, and he kind of wanted to speak to Eubank about it. He said he was kind of.
You know what? I could be totally honest.
Yeah.
I know I'm a bit of a vintage guy, but I never saw the clip. So I've got to be looking more on things. So
Oh, really?
I have to look at that now. I haven't seen it.
You haven't seen the clip?
No, I don't spend that much time on YouTube, you know.
No, but surely after that fight with Groves and
well, if I did, it
Eubank,
didn't really make a lasting impression on me.
Oh.
No. I have to have a look at it.
It was a massive talking point from the night. It's like, but anyway, I'm sure they'll.
I've been had a very busy few months signing those 24 names now, so. But I'm going to have a look at it.
Have a look at it. Have a look at it.
You think they might come to fists or to words?
No. From judging by what Chris was saying last night and from what Naz has been saying, I think Naz will have a kind of chat to him and probably just explain what was said.
I mean, I find Junior a very likeable character. You know, he's got sort of he's not standoffish. But
I know what you mean.
So you can mistake that for arrogance, but when I have a chat with him, he's
good as
down
gold.
to earth as they come.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know.
Anyway, my original question before all this was, 2 weight classes. Obviously, tonight that will come to a close. Going forward, you're going into the new season with 3 weight classes. Are you kind of expecting that obviously to be much more of a challenge than that first season?
Well, it's something, you know, this is our second season, so we're already increasing the weights, but we're going to see how it goes. You know, whether we like the 3 weights, whether we increase to more weights, or whether we go back to 2 weights. Well, it's always a little bit, the quality must be there, you know. There's no point in doing 5 weights and they're crap, you need a depth. To have 8 names in, you need a depth. Now, the cruiserweights have got more depth this season than they do last season, in my opinion. If I go through the 8, the super lights and the bantams are just on fire. You know, people will be saying about the cruise as well. Usyk's not in it. Well, Usyk's done his piece. He's gone up to heavyweight. Yeah, he's taken a nice payday fight on the way, but he's done with cruiserweights. So he's going up. So this is. We're going to get the same type of blockbuster fights that we had last season, this season. I'm sure of that. I promoted cruiserweights has been a weight class that I've rated for years and years and years. You know, I promoted Pablo Hernandez, Marco Hook, Firat Arslan, all world champions in this weight for many, many years. So it's a weight that I know in and out. For me, when the heavyweights were, let's say, under Klitschko's banner, for many years, you saw the best heavy fights at cruiserweight because they are heavyweights. In fact, under Olympic rules, they are actually heavyweight boxers or classifications. But you see big guys who have to make weight, so they have to make that 90 kilo limit. They have to be bang on the weight, which is not always the case with certain heavyweights. You know. I mean, I looked at that Kuzmin fight last weekend, and once again, it's one of those. It's such a deceptive weight, isn't it? You know, and I thought and I'd heard a lot about Kuzmin before, and but when you look at him, it's like, you know, it's like, is he training every day? You know, I know not everyone's supposed to look like you know, Anthony Joshua or Deontay Wilder and be sort of Superman with 400 muscles, but at the same time you expect to see sort of a bit of sporting pedigree. David Price, good example. He's a big guy. He never looks like he's going to compete in the next Mr. Olympia, but at the same time he always looks athletic. Whereas, you know, in heavyweights, it's always very deceptive when you see them. But at cruiserweight, you know, you can see that people have to make weight, and there's a big difference. You know,
It's hard for you to think about doing a heavyweight one, just with the belt situation.
It's a question of a few things. The first, most obvious one is money. You know. Money and power in boxing is, I think money always rules. But at the moment, you know, when I hear they're turning down checks of £50 million for certain fights, or £40 million, or whichever story you believe, you know, I think that it would be exciting to make one now. I think there would also be the depth to go down. But I think in a year and a half, 2 years' time, we're going to see also a new breed. I don't know if you've seen Philip Hrgovic.
Yeah, of course.
It was amazing. Daniel Dubois, also great talent.
Joe Joyce.
Massive puncher. Joe Joyce, who I would also include probably in the bracket now already, because he's a little bit older and he's more, I would say, more developed. Although Hrgovic, on the basis of Hrgovic recently, you know, he's definitely one to watch big time. But there's also, you know, Yoku. I know he's serving a ban at the moment, but he's a big talent as well, of course. You know, so you've got those guys who came out of the Rio Olympics that are coming through now.
But surely this can work without the belts as well.
Could work or couldn't work.
Could work.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
I mean, you see, with the cruisers, it's going to be great to get the belts in. But no one's really moaned about the belts yet so far. People have looked a bit funny at the idea of doing another cruiser straight away. But now I think people, when they see the pairings and the strength in the pairings, you know, they're all good fights. Yeah? So, you know, I think from that point of view, I think we're, you know, it's about the trophy. But we don't want to get rid of belts. You know, we're very happy to work with the federations. We've got all the federations involved again. Like we did this season. That's not the goal here. Boxing should continue on a day-to-day basis exactly the way it does now. Boxing's booming at the moment, you know, booming. You know, if you look at the UK, there's new players, there's new TV companies involved. Look at the US. The US 2 years ago, I heard HBO pulled out last night.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that confirmed, but
yeah, that has been confirmed.
So
what do you make of that anyway?
I think it was on the cards because it's now sort of step up time. And I think HBO's budget, despite being such a big company, their budget on boxing was becoming more and more irrelevant. And you look at the fights they were staging, and I was having conversations with them about the tournament, and they just didn't, you know, they just didn't get it. You know, they didn't want to build up another brand apart from HBO boxing. So fair enough, just put the fights on. You know, and I think that it was inevitable, because if you look now at the money coming in from, obviously, DAZN, which is going to be a super aggressive platform. If you look at the work that they've done in Germany, for example, massively impressive. I've known the founders, Simon Denius, as many years, and someone who is a genius in terms of creating sports right products. You know, if you look at the original company, Perform, was actually, they created something that wasn't existing, betting rights. I mean, I used to sell a lot of TV rights in other sports, and they came up with a totally new format, and I think that they are highly driven, highly financed, and they have a plan. You know, so I think DAZN is one major new player there, and I believe can become the total home of boxing. But at the same time, you have Showtime, who I believe are doubling their budgets. Then you have Fox, who just invested, I think, close to 60+ million a year, and you have ESPN, who are doing majorly back in boxing with Top Rank. So if you put that all together, the budget that HBO have put in year after year, and the quality has got thinner and thinner and thinner. more or less since Ken Hirschman left the channel 3-4 years ago now, and that's something that I think they had to make a decision. We either keep our thing going, invest more money, or we get out. We get out on a high.
Obviously, it leaves a lot of fighters without a CV contract.
It does. The only thing. I mean, first of all, I haven't heard all the details yet, so I don't know what that means. I mean, De La Hoya was, I think, a major supplier to HBO. I think it opens a lot of doors for the other networks. Yeah. The first question I had was, where's Canelo Golovkin Part 3 going to be?
Yeah, it's true.
You know, is that one now that the Zone picks up?
Spoke to I steady on actually about that, whether there's been any conversations with the Zone and those guys, and his coy kind of answer was maybe.
Yeah, no, there will have been.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I wouldn't even ask that question. Eddie should tell you the truth.
He always tells the truth already. But yeah, so that's on obviously that. Yeah, one of the kind of standout fight nights for us is like the Scotland card you've got on the 3rd of November, with Burnett and Taylor double heading. That show, which is the Scots love their boxing.
They do,
and that's a great night.
And on top of that, I think, you know, take those two fights. They're both standalone fights. So when you bring those two together, I think you create the presence on that night for a massive night of boxing. And that is really, we looked at it and we said, okay, there's no natural huge fight there, so we're going to put these two great fights together and make a huge night. And you know, we're going to put on a very big undercard there as well.
Any names you can give us for the undercard?
Not just yet, but we are about end of next week. We want to get this out of the way, and then we'll start signing things next week. But very, very deep in quality, massive undercard, which the Scots are used to, and we expect a sold-out house there. But I think if you look at the fights, if you look at Josh Taylor against Ryan Martin, those are, you know, two undefeated talents from both sides of the pond, which are being massively praised. You know, Ryan Martin's had some standout performances, probably not on the level that Josh has faced so far, but you know, Ryan Martin's training up at Big Bear in a great team, and they produce champions up there. You know, so I think that, you know, Josh Taylor's been, you know, named as the very likely king of that division. But it's such a tough one to split. I mean, there's, you know, if you look also like obviously Progress, who I think is the bookie's favourite. You know, but that's, you know, so that Taylor versus Ryan Martin is a great fight. But add to that Burnett Donaire going back down to a better weight for him, in my opinion. You know, that's going to be fireworks as well. I mean, so you got those two double. It's just a great double header, you know, and very, very excited to be promoting for the first time ever in Scotland. So that's gonna be good fun. I've heard Glasgow is a great crack, and
it is.
And I went up there for a couple of football games a few times, but never been there for boxing, and I've heard it's good fun.
Rock on.
Absolutely.
Obviously, you spent a lot of years, and your father spent a lot of years involved with Povetkin, who was defeated by Anthony Joshua last weekend. What did you make of that fight, Kalle?
I thought it was a great fight again. I think Joshua's involved in some great fights. He's not the perfect heavyweight. That's what makes him exciting, you know. He's definitely, you know, you can hit him, as Povetkin showed. But then again, what a great finisher Joshua is. Again, he showed, you know, the way he ended it. Because Povetkin is, and it was my first pro that I signed. You know, it was my first heavyweight champ. So I know him in and out. I went with him all the way through and up to the Klitschko fight, and then he decided to stay in Russia and go that way. And he's a great guy, and the first 2-3 rounds, he had him in big trouble, deep water. But I think Joshua showed again that he's developing as a fighter. He was able to come out that deep water, for me, in a much more convincing way than, let's say, he did in the Klitschko fight when he was in deep water. Yes, the spectacular uppercut we've all seen now about 1 billion times, but the way he kept his calm. Don't forget, in the first round, let's put this, he almost got stopped. He was rocking and rolling at the end of the round. He had his nose broken in one round. It's very easy for a young fighter to panic at that stage, And actually, I'm going to compare it a little bit with Eubank Jr. When he got the cut, but a different situation. But you see the difference when you have a real corner, a real team. And I know that Senior always says that you don't need a trainer and this, that, and the other, but you do when you get in that stage, when you're a relatively young fighter, maybe been in a situation for the first time now where you've got, you don't know where the head is. He's got 80, 90,000 people cheering him on. He goes in, he realises, Christ, this guy is fast, yeah? And he's accurate, and he's just broken my nose, and he's wobbled me at the end of the round. All those things happened, but he kept his cool somehow for me. Yeah, it took another round or two before he got into his thing, but I thought, great fight, two great heavyweights. And Joshua can take a lot from that in the fact that he stopped a guy that A's never been stopped before. And never been beaten apart from the Klitschko fight. But also a guy who was, throughout his whole career, there's no other heavyweight active who has the pedigree of Alexander Povetkin. It's as simple as that. You just go look back till since he was 16 years old. So he's beaten someone with a huge amount of pedigree. Forget the fact that he's 38, 39. It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. What's relevant here is you saw the speed for Povetkin was still there. So you can't say, oh, well, he's got old and he's slow. Well, he didn't look slow to me. I've watched Povetkin since the first fight. And, you saw the damage he inflicted in the first couple of rounds. And I think that Joshua can take a lot from that in terms of his development.
What's your thoughts on the fight, obviously, which has now been announced, is in date and venue-wise? Wilder Fury, 1st of December.
Great fight.
Staples Center, LA.
Great fight. So that's a nice trip. That's a good one.
Yeah, fancy out there.
Love LA. Love watching Tyson, and Deontay Wilder's an exciting guy as well. So,
how do you think Tyson Fury fares in that fight, Kalle?
I think he wins.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Good.
I think he wins. I think he. I know that the corners he's separated with his uncle, who's, for me, one of the best boxing minds there is in boxing. Boxing minds there is in boxing sounds a bit odd, but the best minds there is in boxing. He's a very, very good coach. Done great work with Hughie Fury, who's also for me one of the most exciting young heavyweights coming through. We didn't mention him before, but he's a bit more advanced than the others. I find he's already boxed for a world title and stuff. But I think that's the only question mark I have in my head. I don't make much of this. He was out the ring and whatever. That's fair enough. But he's had those two fights now to come back, and he's looked.
What are you saying the question mark is?
The question mark for me is the new corner.
Yeah.
I don't know how they've bonded. I can't really
Ben
say.
Davison. Yeah.
I don't know much about how they work together. So I think that's the only question mark for me, because I think that Tyson has what, let's say, the others have in punching power. He has in boxing brains. He's a boxing. He knows his boxing in and out. Not only as a historian or whatever, which he always likes to talk about that, but he's very good at reading fights, and I've sat next to him at a couple of fights, and he picks up things that you wouldn't normally pick up, and be one day a great commentator, because he really has an insight into the sport, and I think that is going to be valuable in that type of a fight, But hey, Wilder, massive puncher. And I'm sure I'm guessing that he's probably the bookie's favourite, but I always go with the underdog.
It's a great fight, and yeah, glad it's all set now. I think they got a press tour starting next week.
That press tour is going to be. I mean, that'll be worth paying for the ticket just for the press tour. I mean, that should be good.
Kick off in London on Monday, so should be quite interesting.
And I just hope there's a decisive winner, because it would be nice to then see that the Joshua fight against.
Subject to rematch clauses, obviously.
Exactly. Well, exactly. That's what people say. When people ask me, what is it? So they're going to fight each other. The winner of that fight, I said, it's boxing. A lot can happen. There could be a very close fight. It could be another rematch. It could be a great fight. And people say, we don't want to watch the Joshua fight. Actually, we want to see Wilder Fury 2. Seen it all before. Anything.
Someone might not want to take the rematch.
Might not want to take the rematch.
Like Klitschko didn't.
Exactly. So there's a few things up in the air. And I don't know, did I understand correctly that Joshua won't fight before that fight? Before April 13th? Is that his next?
That's his next date, 100% set.
So he's taking time off.
Well, no, that's just that they had 2 dates for Wembley. One was they booked in sort of concurrent with each other. 22nd September, 13th of April. So we know that's his next fight.
And they're great events at Wembley, the Joshua fights. My old man was there last week. Said it was spectacular.
See your old man floating about for the last few days. Does he do interviews or not really?
Yeah, he does. Yeah,
does he really?
Have you never done that one?
No.
Oh no, you need to.
I was thinking because someone said to me, I think I asked. I'm not going to mention it. Someone on your team, and they said, "Oh, I don't know."
No. Yeah.
I'll grab him at fight night tonight.
I'll do that.
Yeah.
Do that.
Yeah, I will.
He's been around for a long time, so always interesting to get his insights.
I was talking.
We have our disagreements and agreements.
We were sitting there last night, me, a few other people, Naz, your dad, and just listening to kind of your dad and Naz exchange their stories, and Gilberto Mendoza was there as well. It's just, it's just great sitting around and listening to all these things.
Naz is such a character.
Naz has got 1,000,001 stories. You know, the thing I noticed about Naz, I've observed Naz over the last couple of days, and when someone's talking to him, he genuinely is listening to him. You know, sometimes when people you don't know are talking to you,
and they sort of like
a little bit. He's
Yeah.
genuine. I can tell with what he's coming back with to them that he's actually taking an interest in what they're saying and actually involved in what they're saying.
Cool. I mean, he's for me. I remember when I was in my teens, we always wanted that he lost. You know, people would originally go and see him because he was this cocky kid. I mean, he was so cocky, and it didn't go down well, to be honest. But people paid to watch him lose. But I think in the end, he twisted it, you know. And I think when he started doing his entrances, and then he sort of made himself into this icon. I remember seeing him out clubbing in the West End, and he was a character. He was a character because he was sort of pint-sized, going around the dance floor, and he was a funny guy.
Good addition to the team.
We're happy to have him here as well.
Punditry team, rather.
But I think also he is he's knowledgeable about the sport. He's always asking. You know, have you not noticed that? Like, he will always ask a question on the question. So you'll say, "Oh, who do you think is going to win tomorrow night?" And then you'd say, "Oh, well, I'd say X," and you'd go, "Oh, why is that? Why?"
Yeah.
He's very
attention to detail.
I'll ask him. Maybe he had a previous life as a copper.
Or maybe not.
I can't really actually see that now.
Maybe not.
Naz with a Bobby's hat on.
It's about, obviously this is Eubank's contracted to fight with, because I spoke to him about this yesterday, obviously tonight, and then he's kind of a free agent after this. There's rumours of him potentially fighting DeGale in December. Is there anything you've heard about that?
I heard the same thing. Yeah, I mean that's a good fight. It's a good fight. No, I mean this is a people said to me, what's your involvement in the Usyk-Bellew fight? I said none. No. We contract the fighters for the length of the tournament, the length that they stay in it, and that's what we do. You know, so it's they can go and box Mickey Mouse or Batman afterwards if they want, you know. That's their business. That's why we don't want to compete with the promoters. That's the whole idea, you know. That's why we go under the radar.
Absolutely. All right, have you got anything else you'd like to add?
No, my mum's watching. Hello, Mum.
That's it.
Apart from that, I'm good, Coog. I'm good.
Rowdy in Saudi.
Get ready for Rowdy in Saudi tonight. If that's going out today. It's
It is going out
it's Friday.
today.
It's Friday.
It needs
The
to go
fight
out
is Friday.
today.
Remember, people, it's Friday night. It's straight out of work, down the pub or go home and get yourself some drinks in and get the pizzas and watch what is going to be, as always, a spectacular production, and hoping that we'll get the super fight that we all believe we're going to get.
Is this? It's not open air. This is it. It's indoor.
It's indoor.
All right. Just checking.
Yeah, open air.
Just checking.
Be
No,
going
'cause-
in my swimming costume. No. It's in an air-conditioned arena.
Lovely.
Checked this morning, the air conditioning is working. It looks impressive. It's 10,000. I believe it's sold out. So
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to see the crowd. It'll be
I'm very interested to see
I
it.
tell you, I think it's going to be a big mix between obviously the expats living there who are clearly going to be more knowledgeable on boxing and obviously new boxing fans. Good for the sport.
Kalle Sauerland, thank you very much for talking to iField TV
Thank
this
you so
morning.
much,
I know you're a
Gordon.
busy man today, so giving me 40 odd minutes of your time.
Oh, we've done 40.
Wasn't quite 3 hours,
Wasn't
but
quite
there you
3
go.
hours. We'll do that next week.
We'll catch up with you after the fight tonight.
Absolutely.
Make sure you tune in. This is a huge fight.
It is.
Um,
It's the Battle of Britain
you
for the
can-
Muhammad Ali Trophy. Rowdy in Saudi.
Yeah.
Rowdy in Saudi. I'm not quite Don King. I've got to get used to saying that. Rowdy in Saudi.
There you go.
It's going to be fun. Cool.
Catch up with you after the fight.
Cheers, Coop.
Top man.